Thanks for inviting me. And I think one of the before I just came on this, and Mr. Bijoy, we were talking about this, right? I just tweeted about this whole can India, really live without crypto, and I got like a bunch of a lot of tweets in support of that, and I thought I should probably just read out a couple of them.
Wonderful.
Just because this puts out the it's not it just puts out the people's view. Yeah, so like and there are so many of them. I would love to read everything, but I think here's someone who's saying that most of the crimes are done by the internet. Should we ban the internet too? And I think that's a really thought-provoking tweet out there. Then here's someone who's saying that India cannot live without crypto because we'll lose employment opportunities, and government will lose taxes. We'll also lose investment opportunities as investors, and crypto is not a harm or a threat to the nation. And these are voices from the common people of India. And I think if we look at where the ban word or the thought of a ban is coming, it's coming from more from not the people who are involved on the ground, but from people who probably just read about cryptocurrencies but haven't really gotten their hands into it. And to get the right regulation in India, I believe we should hear both regulators and authorities, and also the common man or the common people of this country. And I think the voice that is drowned out right now is the voice of the nation. What are the common people in India doing with crypto? And I would love to discuss more. Happy to answer any questions you might have around this.
Welcome, Nischal. Actually, you have hit the ground running. Wonderful, and it's a great start. I am sorry to keep you waiting because the conversation with Samrat was going really.
No, I saw that. It was very interesting.
The basics. We are getting our basics right before you go into the remaining discussion. Somebody said, so cryptocurrency itself is a misnomer, actually. In today's panel, also someone said the cryptocurrency itself is a misnomer. It's actually crypto asset, and also somebody said that a lot of people who are probably investing in it don't probably even understand it, right? So how much about all this talk that going around about banning it, or maybe the demand? We heard some Dalal Street guy yesterday, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, saying that it should be banned because currency is the domain of the sovereign and things like that. Today, RBI governor is quoted saying that. Now, how much of this has to do with the understanding of the concept itself, maybe the technology itself? Is there a gap in that?
Absolutely. In fact, when I hear statements like saying that ban Bitcoin because only India can issue a currency, that itself shows that there's a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of what Bitcoin is versus what the INR is. Let's take the very basic difference. INR is an inflationary system of monetary system, and Bitcoin is a deflationary asset class. So how do you even compare a deflationary asset class with an inflationary currency out there? Because by the nature of Bitcoin, the whole fact that it is limited in number, it can never compete with a currency. So then we realize that the misnomer of calling things as cryptocurrency is what probably leading to this. And then there are suggestions like let's call them as a crypto asset, or so that there's less confusion in the people's mind. I understand that, but I think the first thing to do is let's spread the information about what this really is, what Bitcoin is, what Ethereum is, and what INR is. For a long time, people thought that INR was a currency backed by gold. And even now, people don't realize, it's a fiat currency. And you cannot have Bitcoin fighting or competing with a fiat currency. Now, the other important thing that I think, I've heard this in the previous talks also, where they say that people don't know what cryptocurrencies are, so they should not be involved in that. Tell me how many people really understand how the internet works. When we type www.awebsitename.com, do we really know what happens inside to get us that web page? We don't, but we still work on the internet. We are every day is on the internet. So deep understanding of technology versus how to use a technology are two different things. And I believe the people of India today, they know how to use cryptocurrencies. You go to a 22 or a 25-year-old who's into crypto, he or she will tell you everything about how to use cryptocurrencies. They may not be technically really a technology expert, but they're really experts at using cryptocurrencies in the right way. And I think now this, I cannot say this of people in regulatory bodies who are sitting there, who may not have really tried their hand on cryptocurrencies. And my request is that let's try this out, try this technology, try how to send Bitcoins, how to buy the Bitcoins, see what it is. And I think then you will realize that the first thing about comparing with INR is a wrong comparison because it does not fit. You cannot use Bitcoin in everyday transaction simply because a Bitcoin transaction fee is 300 to 500 rupees. Now, how does one use Bitcoin for purchasing everyday goods? I am not going to pay 100 rupees to someone and pay 500 as a transaction fee. We have INR where the transaction fee is zero. So the first, the definition, the whole comparison itself, tells you that there's not been done any research on this sector at all. And then the claims are really not correct. And I think things like this, the platforms like these are going to probably help us put that misinformation away and put the right things in front of people.
Right, but I beg to differ with you in the sense that when it comes to a financial instrument or an investment product, a better understanding is always encouraged. We should not encourage anybody to invest in any asset without understanding it, without having a good awareness about it. And anything in the domain of investment, nobody should do anything blindly. So that's not something that we'd love to encourage. But then earlier we had Swapnendu from Singapore Monetary Authority, and he actually said a lot of use cases. He advocated why we should have a central bank digital currency. And he in fact went on to say that probably in 3 years or 5 years, we will have 1 billion users all over the world, right, of digital currency. Now, he talked of the use cases where, you probably can remit money with just 3-4 clicks, or maybe, in terms of Forex, foreign exchange that you require to travel to another country, how convenient it can be and how cheaper it can be. So probably more than talking about those small transactions, or maybe how 20-year-old or 22-year-old buying it, or maybe the speculative force driving up the value of these cryptocurrencies, we probably should look at more on the use cases, right? And how do you look at that aspect? What are the things that, as someone from the industry, where can we go if we actually embrace it?
Sure. I think one thing I would like to point out that I'm a strong believer of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, coming into effect, simply because the replacement of traditional INR is actually a digital INR. And I believe that when you get in digital INR, that's when everyone will use the digital INR for transactions in India in the regular aspect. What I'm against is saying that because there is Bitcoin or some other crypto, we cannot bring in digital INR, or digital INR will have a competition, because there is no competition to digital INR. That will have a different purpose. Now coming to use cases and talking about, so let's look at this. I heard somewhere in the talk that this is seen as digital gold, Bitcoin, and but then the question is, what's the use case? Now look at this. The reason why Bitcoin was made is because still Bitcoin was not existent. There was no way for someone to send value over the internet. So the only way I could send value over the internet before the Bitcoin was created was if I have my bank in between, which meant we always wanted a third party in between for a transaction. Now, Bitcoin's innovation is the fact that they removed this third party, built a decentralized public blockchain, no owners, and you can send value between each other. The last time innovation like this happened was the internet, where the internet said you don't need a third party to send information between each other. And where are we today? The world has progressed, India has progressed. In fact, a large part of India's progress is the internet. The internet era has given Indians the opportunity to excel. Now, this second revolution, which is of the similar to the internet, is value transfer. Now, a lot of people ask me, what are the use cases? If you ask me the use case of the internet in 1995 or 1998, that I would not have been able to tell you beyond maybe email or chat. And I used to do this. And back then people used to say, how much will you chat and what will you do? So similarly, today when I tell that the best use case of Bitcoin is, I can send Bitcoin to anyone, anywhere in the world. And one of the use case of that is remittances, where people can directly send money from their Bitcoin wallet to their family back in India in 15 minutes and save all that about 7 to 10% fees that is spent in the transfer of traditional remittance. They can save that 7 to 10%. And India does 150 to $200 billion in remittance a year, I think. So that's a saving of 15 to $20 billion to the common people of India. It's in the pockets of the people who are then doing it, not in the pockets of the middlemen that are involved in between. This is just one use case. Now there will be a lot of use cases because now you have the power of programmable money. Programmable internet money was never possible before Bitcoin. What are the use cases? I think once we let this ecosystem grow and we let people create companies around this, only then will we know. But if we were to ban this, even before companies can establish themselves and prove there are use cases, it's like we're saying, let's ban cryptocurrency. And at the same time, we're asking what are the use cases of cryptocurrency? If we do not allow this ecosystem to grow, how will we even know what are the use cases? So there definitely is a lot of potential here, but the problem is today we have uncertainty in the country and a lot of entrepreneurs here are afraid to build on this. We need to first promote them to come and create startups, build for this, and then we'll see a lot more use cases emerge in India.
Right. So Nischal, when you say this entire uncertainty that has been persisting ever since first the ban came in by RBI about transaction with banks, then Supreme Court went ahead and lifted that ban, and then again about this new bill that is probably coming in. Number one, have you, as a stakeholder, have you interacted with maybe the regulator or the government in these discussions, in these forums? If not, if yes, what have you said? What is the case you are putting out? And if not, what is the case that you want to put out?
Yeah, so we haven't really, as an industry, the entire industry hasn't really had an opportunity to have a formal discussion on this with the regulators or anyone. But what we've done is, at least as far as our leaders in the parliament, a lot of MPs we've been able to meet over the years. And we've been able to also have discussions, like these forums like these. We've had discussions like Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg has been, who was part of the 2019 crypto ban bill. In fact, he's been one of the an active participant these days and even last year. So we've had those interactions, but not really a formal interaction where we've had the opportunity to present our case. Now, the second part is if we do have an interaction, and I believe we will over time, now that the bill is there, I believe the government will also involve the industry eventually. The first and foremost, I think the thing is, if you look at it, the regulators, I think their issue is with the currency aspect of crypto. Which is, don't use it as a replacement to INR or as a competition to INR. The MPs that we've spoken to, I realize they want to foster innovation in India and they want to have a digital India. Our Prime Minister also wants to do that. Our Prime Minister also wants Atmanirbhar Bharat to grow in the country, bring in more startups. Now we have an alignment here saying, and we have some countries that have done this, is first, you don't want to use, let's say, cryptocurrencies as a currency in the country. Definitely do not promote that use case. So what we can do is we can say that cryptocurrency should not be used as a currency or as a payment instrument in India. The second aspect is how do you foster innovation is by allowing them to be used as an asset class or as a utility or as a commodity. Now, Indonesia, for example, has done this. They've said, do not use it as a payment instrument, but you can trade in it. You can involve yourself. You can start up on it. You can build what you want. Now, that's a beautiful way for you to foster innovation and also make sure that the negative use cases that you're afraid of do not emerge in the country. So this is our going to be our recommendation to the government as well to start with. This is how you can start rather than saying do not do anything, because that will destroy an entire ecosystem that exists in India, which has been built in the last 5 to 8 years, and over 10 million people, over 1 crore people, and 340 plus startups. So I think the objective is to say that there is a middle path where you don't have to worry. It's not like you either have to say only bad will happen or only good will happen. There will always be both aspects. You can regulate that. You can prevent the bad and promote the good that exists in this ecosystem.
And there are these concerns about money laundering and stuff like that, and the security aspect, of course, that comes in. How is there anything built into the system that you can go out and convince the regulators and the government saying that no, we are foolproof over there?
Absolutely. In fact, this is a very important question. Now, let's take, for example, if you were to buy your first ever cryptocurrency, the way for you to do that is to go on an exchange, let's say like WazirX, and transfer your INR and buy your first crypto. When you do that, you also we ensure that you do your KYC as well, so that there is no anonymity aspect of buying and selling of cryptocurrency. This keeps our ecosystem safe, our users safe. If you were to purchase your cryptocurrency and do some bad illegal activities, the nature of blockchain is that it's public. So the government, you, me, anyone, we can all trace where these cryptocurrencies are traveling. So if you were to use that for any illegal purposes, the government will get to know that. Now, the other objective is, let's say you ban it. Then what happens is you will try to buy your first cryptocurrency through a cash system or an underground system. So no one will know that you bought cryptocurrencies. And then if you do something bad, the government will also not be able to trace back it to an illegal activity or a person who's bought it. Government will never know. So it is in the best interest of regulators and the government to regulate an industry like this, which is why we are seeing that in the US, UK, EU region, Singapore, everywhere, the governments are telling, let's regulate so that if there are any bad activities, we can identify, and the good actors can continue to do their innovative approach. Whatever you want to do as a startup, as an individual investor, you can continue to do that without any fear.
Right. In fact, we also find that the sense that one gets is that it's not that government doesn't appreciate the technology. In fact, the regulators at RBI's level also there. In fact, the governor himself mentioned that RBI is working on its own cryptocurrency. Right. That means they actually appreciate the technology and the immense possibilities that it offers. Now the question is, should it be in the private domain? Because of course, currency is something that no central bank wants to let go of the control of the currency part of the economy, right? So how do you handle that question? What happens if the private players are banned and the government brings in its own cryptocurrency? What is what is the negative side of it, or the positive side of it?
See, I think this again is, I think I'm with everyone, with you, the regulators, that private companies should not be allowed to create a currency of their own. I completely accept that. But private players should be able to create their own utility tokens. So here's the thing, let's break this down. A crypto or a cryptocurrency is divided into 4 broad categories. It can either be a currency, or it can be a commodity, or it can be a utility, or it can be a security. So the first use case is currency, which is buying and selling. And I believe this should be probably in the government domain.
Right.
So let's keep it that. My question comes: what happens to cryptocurrencies that are commodities,
right,
or that are utilities, or securities? For securities, we know we have SEBI, so we could move these security tokens under SEBI's regulatory oversight. What happens to commodities? Maybe we have commodities regulators who could regulate this.
Maybe.
And what happens to utilities? Now, utilities are tokens that are used within an ecosystem, within a website. Like you have, shopping points on shopper stops. The loyalty points.
We already use things like Sodexo.
Yes, Sodexo. So that's a great example of a utility token. So now the thing is, why do we put a blanket approach to this when we know this is how they are classified? In fact, in the UK, this is exactly what is being done. So if something is a currency, that gets regulated under the central bank of in the UK. If it's a security, it gets into the securities regulator. Commodities into the commodities regulator, and utility, because there is no law today legally. So utilities are okay. That's how UK is proposing. In the US also, what the SEC in the US is saying is that if it's a security, we are going to come after you. So you better follow all the rules of the securities in the US. So this is being done. So then the question is, why are we only catching hold of the currency aspect and applying it to the other categories? We should not do that. I think I definitely stick to the fact that the currency is in the domain of the central bank and it should remain there. But the other utilities and the security and the commodities aspect, the public participation should be allowed. So that's all this is all about. There's no fight about no. We should all be creating our own currencies. I think that'll be madness. I don't know what will happen. But the other aspects, I think we should all be allowed to participate. And in fact, everyone around the world is doing that right now.
Right. The other question that, in fact, your colleague was there in the panel from your organization. So he mentioned, in fact, like Elon Musk has done, some of Indian corporates are also looking at using their treasuries to put some of part of it maybe in Bitcoin. How real is it? Is it really happening in India?
So I've seen early feelers of that. See, the thing is, if you look at Indian companies today, we are not just bound to India. A lot of companies are also building for the global world. And right. I think we should promote more of that. Now, what happens when you look at your global competitors getting into a new asset class? You have one of the two choices. Either ignore it or make sure you're also hedging yourself.
Right.
So that if that is a reality, a new reality, or is where every company holds Bitcoin, you want to be the early movers. So this thought is pushing a lot of these companies in India into this direction. Still early days. I think maybe some family offices where they have more control over going fast on this are probably at the later stages. But a lot of other companies are just understanding right now. They want to understand, like, because Tesla has done it, Square has done it, PayPal has done it, MicroStrategy, a large fund in the US, is doing it. There is something to it. And in the US, it's estimated at least 500 to 1,000 corporates are already in it, because not everyone is announcing this. Not everyone is telling everyone that, we've invested in Bitcoin. A lot of them are keeping it private. Only public companies are what we are hearing about. So India, definitely, I think we should not be behind this, because 1-2 years delay will cause us a lot of, I would say, loss in terms of innovation and catching up with the world. Then we'll be spending another 2 years catching up with the rest of the company. So I think that's probably the reason. Competition is the biggest reason why Indian companies are also looking into it right now.
Okay, tell me about the use cases at the exchange level itself. What are the kind of fee and etc. that one has to pay if someone goes to the exchange? Because I'm sure there are a lot of aspiring investors among the audience who would like to understand how the entire transaction system works.
Sure. So I think when you want to buy your first cryptocurrency, what you do is you transfer INR to an exchange like WazirX, and you put your first buy order. The fee is 0.1 to 0.2%, depending on the volumes you trade and everything. And based on the price that is there in the market, we are an open order book exchange, which means we don't buy or sell cryptocurrency. We just help people do it. So depending on the price in the market, you can buy. I think one of the misconceptions that people usually have is that, do I have to buy the entire Bitcoin? Which you don't. You can buy Bitcoin for as low as, let's say, 500 rupees. Because just like you don't have to buy 1 kilo of gold, you can buy an ounce or a gram. You can do the same in Bitcoin as well. You can buy a small part of it. So ideally, people start with 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees. They understand the cycle, all the fees involved, and then they go to buy more.
The other aspect, as you said, that you might be owning it in India and then you go to Dubai and probably cash it or something like that, right? So how does the cross-currency math work there? Because a lot of Indians today travel overseas, and Forex is one aspect they are often worried about, because there are a lot of fluctuation. So how does that work? Do I have an edge over there?
See, there's no defined law around this right now, but I think no one can stop you from, let's say, using your cryptocurrency anywhere in the world. And this is where regulations are going to be really, really helpful, because people today do not know whether this is okay to do or not. But if you have regulation where you define what is allowed and what is not, then people will know how to use them. For example, if you do not want people to, let's say, use this Bitcoin in some other country, then you can lay regulations around it, saying that use it within the country or hold it and you can sell it. For example, when you buy or sell cryptocurrencies on an exchange like WazirX, you are only trading with Indians. So we make sure that you're doing it only in India. Now, whether you can take it outside the country or not, I think this is where regulations will help a lot. There's still uncertainty, but given the technology, you can definitely do it. There's nothing stopping you.
I'm running out of time over here, but I'd ask two quick questions over there. How liquid is this asset? Because tomorrow, suppose something adverse comes in and I'm an investor today, if I'm holding it today, how fast can I liquidate or maybe convert it into something kind of a fiat currency or a dominant currency?
Look, I think in terms of liquidity, if you compare it to the liquidity of gold globally or the equities markets that we see, it's comparatively lower. It's not a highly liquid market compared to other traditional markets because it's a new one. Which is why when you hear a story, a news of a Tesla buying worth a billion and a half, you see the price appreciate by 10-20%. So that's something that we all have to be aware about. But what we've seen is that the liquidity today in India is good enough to handle about $100-200 million or even more. I think $300-400 million worth of trades a day. So that's the kind of liquidity that you can expect in the Indian markets. And globally, I think it's in a few $billion.
Right. So we started with whether India can live without cryptocurrency. So we have to end with that question itself. So so you have, of course, presented the dream scenario that probably you are thinking of, and probably you are going to make your case at some point, wherever you get your chance. But what is it that you are visualizing? How are we going? Where are we headed?
So I think, yeah, see, the thing is, the fact that we are even discussing all this and there's a bill around crypto in India, I think I see that as a very positive direction because before this, we had no understanding or knowledge of what the government is thinking, or is the government even looking into this sector? I'm really excited about the fact at least the government is talking about it. Now the question is what direction to take it. I think with industry participation and see our government is there to help grow this country in the right direction. So I believe that when they start interactions with us, we'll present our case. And I'm really confident that our leaders in parliament are going to question about, what are the positives and what are the negatives, both. They're not just going to think about only the negative use case. They're going to look at the innovative positive use cases. And I believe that there's enough positive use cases of cryptocurrencies for India to adopt it and regulate it rather than ban it. So ultimately, I'm really psyched about the fact that we are at least discussing this on a national level. The media is involved. A lot of big names are talking about cryptos right now. So it's a great time, I guess, for crypto in India.
Okay, and what are your kind of projections? You are probably 5 years old now. I'm not very sure about that. If you can just tell us how is your business growing and where are you headed? What are your projections?
Yeah. So we launched in 2018. So we are about 3 years old, and in the last 12 months alone, we've grown about 700 or 800% in terms of trading volumes, and about 300 to 400% in terms of signups. And as an industry, I think right now we are at about 10 million total participants. I see this growing to at least 30 to 40 million in the next 18 months in India. And in terms of the size of the industry, I think India today has about $1.5 billion worth of cryptocurrencies held in the country. I think we can take this to maybe $5 billion or $10 billion worth of cryptocurrencies in the country. And that's my projection for the next 18 to 24 months, probably.
Right. One last question that it comes from a reader, from an audience. He says at times, people keep getting mails and text messages asking you to do certain operation on your system every day to what they call the mining of certain cryptocurrency, which someday will probably become of big value. Those kind of things, probably are infusing a lot of doubts and creating trust issues and transparency issues for this asset class. What are your views and how does one handle this?
See, yeah, I think where the question is coming from is like if you look at the history of Bitcoin, how it started was in the initial days, and if you had a computer, you could mine Bitcoin and earn them. And today, what happened is whoever mined Bitcoin back in those days is holding a gold mine. And then what happens is you hear about these new cryptocurrency, and they say that similar to Bitcoin, you can do the same with these also. You can mine it today, and tomorrow it will be valuable. Now the thing is, I can't really put a blanket saying they're all bad, they're all good. But the important factor is to first look into what is it being built for, the use case. Like I said, those four classifications, you have to see where is it falling. The second is who's the team behind it. A lot of times what happens is if you're thinking about scams, they happen from anonymous founding teams where you don't know who's behind it. So do not get into projects where you do not know who the team behind it is. Second, do not get into it without understanding what it is being built for. Like the use cases of cryptocurrencies are very, very important, and the classification under what do they fall is also again something that you should really look into. So without understanding it, do not take anyone's word, because building a cryptocurrency is not rocket science. It's as easy as building a new website. Just like I cannot build a website and tell you that this is going to be as valuable as like the Facebook or Google. No one can just create a cryptocurrency and tell you that it is going to be the next Bitcoin or the next Ethereum. So it's very important to understand what is it being built for and who are the team behind it. I think these are two really important factors.
Thank you, Nischal. We'll have to wrap it here. Thank you for all your perspectives and a lot of gyan. I myself have learned a lot of stuff, I must say. You are really very thorough with this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot for inviting me out here. It's fun.